Hello, and welcome to the Futurum Tech Webcast. I'm Shelley Kramer, Principal Analyst and Founding Partner here at Futurum Research. And today I'm excited to have Martin Bitzinger, who is the Senior Vice President, Product Management for Mitel, join me. And Martin is responsible for Mitel's product portfolio and product marketing, including UC platforms, applications, and devices. No small job. Mitel, of course, is known for its long history, strong innovation, and penetration in enterprise telephony. With that, Martin, welcome. It's so good to have you.
Thanks, Shelley. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. How are things in Germany today?
Good, but today is actually a really rainy day. But so far, we really can't complain. We've had very um, nice temperatures all month long, and for November, that's not usual.
Well, we have also had some very nice temperatures, so I'm grateful for every sunny day that we have. So, tell me a little bit about where Mitel does its business.
Yeah, so Mitel does its business in the what we call unified communications industry.
Right,
For many of you that may not be so familiar with the exact term, that's everything that has to do with telephony. That's kind of the traditional thing where things come from, but then it
right,
spills over into all things collaboration, whether it's chat. There's an aspect of video that's become pervasive, of course, but then there is a lot of stuff that you actually don't see going on in the background, like for example, call centers or contact centers that our
right.
customers use anytime you phone into a company. There's lots of technology, software, other things going on, and we basically play in all of that, including manufacturing of devices, desktop phone, cordless phones, etc.
Right.
Whether it's for general business use or specific verticals like hotels or hospitals, etc.
I always think about unified communications as a little bit like your car. You don't think about your car, generally speaking, um, other than I want to get in, I want to turn it on, and I want it to work perfectly, right? And unified communications is such an important part of our everyday existence, whether we're working in an office setting, whether we're working in a call center, whether we're working at home, whether we're calling and needing customer assistance or whatever it is we're trying to accomplish in our lives from a personal standpoint, consumer standpoint, business standpoint. We're sort of immersed in the world of unified communications, whether we know it or not, and we really just want it to work and be great.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and it's something that has really evolved over the past years. Where traditionally you would have thought about telephony as being something very specific, very separate. It's a thing on your desk, and that's what you
Right.
use. But it's that has evolved from there, where it's more software based today. It's integrated sometimes, even when you go on a web page and they have a chat button or something like that. That is all unified communication. So it comes in many different forms, shapes, flavors,
Yeah.
and it's as you say, it's become pervasive, and it's very very broad, and
Yeah.
it's just evolved from that day. And I think that's also something we're challenged with is there are so many players, and then there's of course the headline players in some of these industries when it comes to video, etc., because it's become a household name,
Right.
like the Zoom and etc. It even became a verb for many people, for many customers. But it's a lot more, and it's a lot broader, and
Yeah.
people sometimes don't appreciate how broad it's become.
Yeah, yeah, it is a huge ecosystem. So I'd love to talk a little bit about trends. Obviously, given your role within the industry and within the company in general, I would guess you have your finger on the pulse of those trends. So, what are you seeing emerging this year, and what are you leaning into with your team at Mitel?
Yeah, so there's of course a lot of change going on with companies coming out of pandemic mode, getting back to the offices, business returning more to normal. A lot of things have changed, and we're in many ways we're back to, in a lot of cases, more looking at what people looked at pre-pandemic. In the pandemic, everything came. Nobody could leave the house. It's all about home office. It's just
Right.
you're in front of a screen and do a video call, and that's all you do. Even that wasn't even true back then because contact centers, etc., of course, were still around. And now it's reshaping again. So what we're seeing is definitely that the companies, whether it's a smaller company, their requirements are very, very different from the larger one. And for our business, we're traditionally, serving more some of the larger companies, and they have very, very different needs. So there's a very big vertical
Right.
specialization. And then there's this whole aspect of how do you want to consume something with the tough economy and people not necessarily wanting to make a big investment up front.
Right.
With your car analogy, is it's basically around this: do I want to own something? Do I want to lease a car, or do I want to rent a car?
Right.
There's different aspects with that, and different companies you deal with. If you want to rent a car, you basically deal with a rental company, not so much with the car manufacturer, and not so much
Right.
with the people that would be serving or servicing a car. And then there's very little you have to do, but you have to. The price is higher if you look at it over
Right.
the lifetime, but you don't have any strings attached, and you can give it back tomorrow if that's what you choose to do. Leasing contract is different, right? And buying and owning it is yet again different. And we see some of that happening when people talk about cloud and cloud providers. Everybody thinks about technology first, but in reality, when you scratch the surface a little, cloud and the term, the way it's being used, has gone way beyond that technology piece, and really has a lot to do with how people have chosen or are choosing to consume certain services.
Right. Right. Is there a do you see, so I'm thinking through my question. Are you seeing an increased trend toward interest in leasing systems in spite of the fact that it might cost more? Is that 50-50? Where do you fall in terms of your customer base on that front?
So I would say we've seen during COVID, we've seen a huge spike in renting something, especially among smaller businesses, because they
Right.
quickly needed something and they
Right.
immediately had a requirement for getting a video solution, for example, into their business.
Right.
That's what renting I would correlate to what we call UCaaS in our industry, UC as a service, where
Right.
you go to
Right.
somebody that gives you the end-to-end service. There's nobody else involved.
Right.
You just go to that company, deal directly with them, and they do everything. And that is something that we've seen a huge spike in. We are not doing that per se because we're a
Okay.
product manufacturer. We have a
Right.
partnership with a UCaaS player, so
Right.
with Central, and so we can help our customers if that's what they choose to do. But to stay with the analogy, we're more in the owning and rent and leasing business, and
Right.
we've seen a huge shift towards flexibility there as well, where leasing is becoming a lot
Yeah.
more normal and natural, whereas a few years ago, you bought it and you ran it for a number of years.
You
So
owned it forever, yeah. No, I could really see, I could see the attractiveness, really, whether it's at the enterprise level or the mid-sized market, for a leasing option, because I think consumers today, a variety of factors are at play. One is, a pandemic that might affect your choices, but I think one of the things that leasing, and that doesn't mean that buying is not attractive, because in many instances buying is, but I think leasing is kind of a big fat easy button. You know,
Mhm.
I don't have to be, maybe I think this is going to be great, but I'm not 100% sure. Or, I just see that that could be incredibly attractive, just like leasing a car is attractive for many reasons, So I'm not surprised to see that interest increasing on the part of the customer.
Yeah, and it is, but it's still very different from renting because
Oh, yeah.
thing, or what we would call subscription in our business, where you
Yeah,
basically subscribe to a software, but you still have the partner of your choice implementing it, servicing it,
right.
dealing in your day-to-day dealing. And that's where the analogy somehow breaks, because a UC solution, especially in a larger company, is not as simple as a car. There is a lot more
Absolutely.
servicing aspect. There is an implementation aspect, and there, um, our go-to-market and going through partners that are local, that know the
Right.
vertical in many cases, that our customers are in, that are experts. That's where that place where they can still continue to use and rely on those partners,
Right.
and still get the solution they want in the
Right.
way they want to consume and pay for it.
So we kind of have started talking about this, but I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into the business problems that your customers have that Mitel works with them to solve.
Yeah, so the business problems vary, of course, by industry
Of
and
course.
by vertical. But generally speaking, what our customers are typically looking for is a communication solution. They have very high demands typically for reliability and control. Some of our customers are, for example, hospitals, police, etc. So they,
Right.
being reachable and being able to communicate is just essential for keeping their business running. And then it's broader than just telephony. Historically, people would have thought about, well, communication is just telephony. And at the end of the day, that's still a very big part, because there's nothing as natural between humans than just to talk to each other, because that's
Right.
what we do every day. And that's why we think
Yeah.
this is probably never going to go away. But there's other forms of communication as well, and that comes through in interactions between customers and companies. So the contact center, and that can start with a chat, but can also end up with a phone call for that. But then also, what's more and more important is the communication is an inherent part of a workflow. How you
Yes.
organize your work and how you organize what you do on a day-to-day basis, and that can come into play in education, in hospitality, for example, in hotel rooms, where the communication sometimes is used to coordinate the various different workflows, whether it's cleaning up a room, vacating a room, making it ready, taking a reservation, etc.
Right.
And
Right.
and in the hospital, where it's a lot about nurse call, things alarming, etc. That goes way beyond just the voice, but the voice tool, the communication tool, becomes the underlying tool that's used to coordinate the people working in that company.
Right. Right. So there are many choices in this market. Why do customers choose Mitel?
So customers choose Mitel because we are a very well-known brand,
Right.
or player in the industry. We've been there for a number of years, really. Um, but it goes beyond that. For that, we have very very specific solutions for a number of our customers in our key verticals. And it's not just the Mitel solution itself, it's also the flexibility we enable by combining our solution with some of the other software and environments, and the integrations that are there with other pieces of companies' portfolios, and our partner landscape that is the expert at implementing that and rolling that out with our customer. But at the end of the day, it's they have a need for a solution like that. We're a big player in what we do in that specific part of the UC market, and with a track record for reliable communication products.
When you say we have a track record, I think that's a little bit of an understatement. If memory serves, Mitel is close to 50 years old. That's a pretty significant track record.
Yeah, we're very, very close to our 50th birthday now.
Yeah,
And the company has morphed many times and stayed current um, with uh, with their products, with their technology. And yeah, we have a significant customer base out there. It's almost it's around 35 million end users out there that are using our products.
no small
So
number.
really, it's not a small number, and there's a lot of critical infrastructure and critical customers that rely on our products every day.
Right, right. So we talked a little bit about verticals here in the last few minutes, and I know that Mitel is focusing on certain verticals. Let's talk a little bit. You talked about hotels and hospitality. You talked about hospitals. Share with us, if you would, some of the vertical focus and how it is that you excel in the vertical game.
So our some of our key verticals in no particular order just is government,
Yeah,
education. Education could be schools, but also universities,
sure.
healthcare, hospitality, financial services, and if I had to name a sixth one, it would probably be a retail, especially
Okay,
big box retail stores.
okay.
So that's where we typically play. Give a few examples that people can easily relate to. So on education, for example, um, in a school, a lot of it is around emergency calling and emergency notification
Okay,
type requirements. So if something's going on, you need to have there is even laws in place in many countries, specifically also in the U.S., that you have to have a phone in every classroom for obvious reasons.
right,
But there's also things like paging, emergency paging to let everybody know that something's happening in the school. All of that is connected to the infrastructure there. Plus, of course, being able to make normal phone calls and have normal interactions. In healthcare, it goes anywhere from small doctor's offices where you may want to have a solution, to call in and get an announcement and say, you know what, I will be with you in a second, setting up appointments, all the way to large hospitals where everything is integrated with the communication system. The button you press at the side of your bed in case of an emergency
right,
uh, then triggers an alarm on a cordless device that a nurse is carrying, for example, that then provides a location where she needs to move to. All of that integrated solution we do in those scenarios. And then, hospitality maybe is easy. Everybody sees it. There's a phone in everybody's room, but then
right.
there's little things. If you call the front desk, and maybe if you've stayed at a better hotel and they address you by name, it's not that they still remember you from check-in that you checked
Absolutely.
in. There's a solution behind that
Yes,
that makes all that happen. Also, typically being used for once the house cleaning went through the room, they just press a button on that phone and that marks the room as clean. Things like
right.
that. All of that is part of the solution, including my favorite example is always the cruise ship industry because our equipment is on more than two-thirds of the entire global cruise ship fleet.
This I
Uh,
did not know. That's
yeah,
impressive.
and it's being used there in a very similar way to a hotel, of course.
Oh, oh, wow, that's awesome. Uh, confession, I've never been on a cruise.
Yes.
That's that's not really my jam. Okay, it is mid-November. 2023 is around the corner, believe it or not. Um, I would love to know what you have on the roadmap for Mitel's current and future customers that I hope will excite them. I know it'll excite them. So let us in on the secrets.
Yeah, so just to, really briefly to highlight a few things. So we've been working on making our products easier and more cost effective in terms of deployment. Traditionally, you needed a lot of hardware. That's very traditional. That's probably evolved over the past decade already to virtualization. And these days, we're really strongly working on making all of that easily deployable in public cloud environments such as AWS, Microsoft Azure,
Right.
to really provide the flexibility any way you want to deploy and bring the cost down for our customers to run all these different solutions.
That's awesome. And today, of course, incredibly attractive, right? As everybody's looking to, in a challenging economy, regardless of where you are in the world, I think that's a good part of the value proposition, attractive part of the value prop.
Yeah, it's very attractive for them, and what makes it specifically attractive is that we don't force them down any particular path. It's up to them, because there are still customers that want to have all the equipment in their basement because they need to be self-sufficient. Typical example, we talked about hospitals before. Large hospitals need to have that in their basement with their own generator, so that even if everything else fails, they're still operational. The other one I want to highlight would be vertical programs around some of our main verticals. So we're doing a lot to go deeper in terms of application integration in our key verticals, specifically focus on some of the ones I've already mentioned. We're also building out smart applications that enhance our position and kind of leverage the data we're collecting and making that easier for our customers to access and use that data with some of our, Mitel Insights, Voice Assist programs that we've talked about, and continued collaboration enhancements. So the application angle is really big for us, but it's not so much, just the front end that the normal end user is using. It's more, providing and enhancing the applications to provide more overall business value for our customers as a whole. And then the fourth one is really modernizing the tools and capabilities that our customers have had, and making it easier to configure, maintain, and also change certain things. And that goes into the same direction as the first one I highlighted, this flexibility and ease of
Right.
change, moves, adds, changes, etc., just to be more adaptive, and make it easier for our customers to be agile.
I think those are incredibly important across every business landscape today, right? I mean, ease of use, flexibility, adaptability, interoperability, all of those things are what customers are looking for, I think, in the vendor partners that they choose to work with and the technology solutions they opt to integrate into their businesses. I think those are really important things to highlight. So good
Yeah,
work.
yeah, absolutely.
So now I'd like to talk a little bit about your partner ecosystem. So I know that the majority of Mitel sales comes through partners. So walk me through, if you would, why customers should get excited about CLM. Does this make it easier for them to sell Mitel? Do they make more money? Describe for me what that's all about.
Yeah, so we've the whole partner ecosystem in the UC industry in general has is something that has grown over many years, and a lot of
Yeah,
those partners are not just helping our customers with their UC specific solutions. They're a trusted partner for many IT requirements, whether that's
right,
networking or other things, specific applications. And UC is a strong part of that. Now, the
right,
IT industry as a whole has really evolved, and that partner landscape for us is a real asset because they have those valuable customer relationships, and the customers trust the respective partners, and our partners hopefully trust us, and that
right.
makes this a very fruitful long-term relationship. And this is where this whole CLM, or customer lifecycle management aspect, comes in, because historically, while we've taken good care of our partners, we've not been very good at having discussions that go all the way down to specific customers. And with the evolution of systems and data, how you can track all that, how you can capture all that, cloud systems where you get more insights about the end customer itself. You know who the end customer is, how much they're using certain things. We can have much better, much deeper discussions together with our partners, how we can jointly better serve those
Right.
end customers. Very, very specific discussions that was not possible to the same extent even a few years ago. And this is why this is very, very relevant, because it's very relevant in terms of keeping the customer relationship alive and making sure we're all still relevant and see value
Right.
from that relationship, but also having a discussion is how can we do even more, and how can we help those customers even more. And that's a bit of a new angle. It's much, much more difficult to do that through this, partner, end customer partner, vendor type relationship. It would be a lot easier in consumer type companies. That's been a lot more normal to have that, CLM, and we're trying to operationalize that through our go to market as well. And we see, a huge potential in that.
So there are a lot of opportunities for partners. Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunities for partners. There's a lot of opportunity for us,
Yeah.
definitely in the market, and
Absolutely.
there is a lot of things that customers need that
Absolutely.
they're not necessarily getting today.
Well, there's lots to do then. That's exciting. So, as we wrap this conversation, what can our listeners, our customers, our partners, industry influencers, what can we look forward to from Mitel?
That's a good question, but so we're really very focused on growth,
Right.
and when I talk about growth, I'm specifically talking about growing our customer base. We want to do that with our compelling ecosystem of solutions, with our
Yeah.
partners, the extensive network of channel partners we have, and just a relentless focus on executing that strategy. There's a lot more to come from us. We really want to drive that organic growth, which hasn't necessarily been there in some of the segments of the UC industry, just because there's so many different ways of doing certain things that things moved around a lot in the UC industry. But we believe that we can accomplish that with a laser focus on those specific verticals, and really focusing on that part of a huge market, and just executing well in that part of the market, instead of trying to spread ourselves too thin in a very broad market. And I think that's something probably a little different from what we've tried previously. But that's what we want to do, and I really encourage the listeners to watch the Mitel 2023 announcements that we have coming around those areas, because that's where we're going to explain how exactly we're going to go about doing this.
Well, that's very exciting. I will be watching for sure. It sounds like there are great things ahead. Martin, thank you so much for spending time with me today and sharing more about the Mitel story and what we can look forward to in the coming year, and lots of exciting stuff.
Thanks so much, Shelly.
All right. Well, we'll talk again soon, I'm sure. Thank you very much.